Good day, everyone. Today we will discuss about the evolution of the taxation in the Philippines. Okay. If last time we discussed about the different agrarian policies provided by the different presidents or different administrations in the Philippines, today we will discuss the concept of taxation as an inherent powers of the state. The power of taxation is considered as the one of the three fundamental powers of the government. It rests upon necessity, the significance of which stems from the recognition that since government has been established to promote and protect welfare of the people, it is necessary that government should be provided with the means to carry out its existence. So to say, tax is considered as the bloodline of the government. Through the power of taxation, government has the authority to impose burdens and charges upon persons, property, and property rights. The people, as good citizens, have the responsibility to contribute a fair share to the cost of government. Certainly, the payment of tax is a burden to all those who have the duty to pay because of their income and wealth. Okay, so uh, with that in mind, we can say that tax is really an avoidable circumstance in which the government must implement because it will affect the total services of the different offices and government agencies. Therefore, a, a properly tax collection must be done to ensure that the money of the people will be liquidated properly. Okay? So, uh, the first known system of taxation was in ancient Egypt. And during that time, taxation can also be in the form of commodity, product, or food. Also present in the Bible, that tax are also present to uh, prevent uh, or to promote continuity of the government activities. Okay. Also, there is the concept of taxation in Rome, wherein Augustus Caesar introduced the inheritance tax to provide retirement for the military. And even in England, taxes were first used as emergency measures. In the country, centuries before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, the early Filipinos lived in separate and independent village states called barangays. Okay? Each barangay has its own government headed by a ruler called Datu or Raha. Each barangay was consisted of 30 to 100 families. Some barangays were big, such as Sugbu or Cebu, Mactan, Bigan, and Maynila. Each of these big barangays had a population of more than 2,000 people. There was no national government in ancient Philippines. Some barangays, however, united to form a confederation. So, like other states where there is social stratification, pre-Spanish Filipinos were also divided into social classes. These were the nobles, the freemen, the slaves. The nobles, composed of rulers and their families, occupied the highest class. They were usually addressed as Gat, Lakan, Raha, or Datu. Next to them were the middle class called freemen. Freemen were the working class. The lowest class was the slaves. The slaves were classified into two. These were aliping namamahay and the aliping sa gigilid. The aliping namamahay were not a full-fledged slave. Okay? They had their own respective families and their own houses. They were required to serve their masters only during planting and harvesting period. The Sagigilid were the real slaves. They were homeless, forbidden to form their own families, required to stay with their master's dwelling, and may be used as a payment of debt. During this period, natives started paying taxes, but only free men were required. Okay? The tax collected was called buwis or handog. It was for the protection they received from the datu. The chieftain's family members were enjoying exemption from paying taxes. Non-payment of taxes was already punishable during this period. Okay? And also, before the concept of buwis or handog, the original settlers of the country had this communal relationship. They shared the land to all of them since they all benefit from the land. But when the Spanish came, the practice of tax collection was in accordance with the first Filipino-Spanish treaty signed between Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and King Tupas of Cebu on June 4, 1565. This was intended to support the construction, government offices, build roads and bridges, buildings, sports, markets, schools, finance the operation of the churches, pay the salaries of government officials, improve the transportation and communication, and effectively administer the colony. Spanish had to compel the natives to pay taxes, but as early as 1501, the Pope Alexander VI granted Ferdinand and Isabella and to their successors the right to collect and retain the tithes. Yung tithes is considered as also as a form of tax, and other church dues in all their possessions beyond the seas. This grant was made in return for a promise. Afterwards, most liberally fulfilled so far as the Philippines were concerned, that the crown should pay the expenses of the church in Christianizing the colonized people. The earliest recorded excise taxation proper in the Philippine Islands was during the Governor Gonzalo Ronquillo in 1580 to 1583. Okay? Also, the taxation can be seen in these particular events. The Manila-Acapulco Galleon Trade or the Mexico-Philippine Galleon Trade, exchange of commodities, the forced labor, the polo y servicio, the bandala system, the tributo, and the encomienda system. Under the Spanish occupation, common taxes collected include tributos, cedula, sanctorium, donativo de Zamboanga, vinta, falya, encomienda, excise taxes on certain products, industrial taxes, royalties on forest products, a documentary stamp tax, and postal tax. These taxes were paid either in cash or in kind, in full or installment basis. Most taxpayers preferred to pay in cash. Taxes were both imposed to both natives and citizens of another country on both occupation and business. Tributos were collected to support government and church operations. Those individuals above 16 years old and below 60 were required to pay tribute among amounting between 8 and 10 reales. For Spain, paying tribute was a sign of loyalty to the king of Spain. The Filipino tributes were the lowest in the empire. In Mexico, taxes went as high as 14 reales per head in some provinces, and in the Viceroyalty of Peru, between 40 to 48 reales. The 8 to 10 reales was slightly higher than 1 peso. According to Blair and Robertson, The fiscal income of the islands under Spanish administration amounted to 33,000 pesos in 1584. From this amount, 22,000 pesos came from the tributes collected. In 1598, tribute was increased, and because of widespread resistance and abuses in its collection, the king abolished it in 1884. Cedula was introduced as its replacement. Okay? Cedula or community tax certificate serve as identification card when has to be carried by the person at all times. Sanctorum is another form of tax included in the tribute with an amount of 3 reales that is used for church purposes. Donativo de Zamboanga, which is imposed between 1635 up to the middle of the 19th century, is collected to crush the Moro raids. Vinta, on the other hand, amounts to one half real or one ganta of rice every year used in financing coastal patrols around Metro Manila and in the western coast of Luzon. Palya is a sum of money amounting to 7 pesos in order to be exempted from polo or forced personal services. Lastly, diezmos prediales or tithes, consisting of one-tenth of the products of one's land is collected while goods covered by excise taxes include jewelries, trinkets, borlas, and powder. Now, in the Philippines, cedula is still a residence certificate, but it is considered as a legal document to identify the identity of the person living in that community. It is important uh, to have for a person to have a cedula because it is used as a primary document to have acquire a notary public, okay, or taking an oath of office or even the election or appointment to a government um, position. Okay. We have also the concept of taxation, which can be seen in four: revenue, redistribution, repricing, representation. The first one is revenue. This is uh, for the acquisition of money to spend for schools, roads, uh, salaries of government employees, and even for providing social services to the people. Redistribution, however, it refers to the transferring of wealth from the richer section of society to poorer section. Redistribution can be seen in other form of taxes. Repricing, however, it is considered as taxes that are levied to address externalities. For example, tobacco is taxed to discourage smoking, and a carbon tax discourages use of carbon-based fuels. However, since there are people who are forced to use this or compelled to use this product, they need to shoulder the taxes behind those products. We have also the concept of representation. So it implies that uh, in paying a tax or a form of cedula, it is a form of our allegiance to the country and form of our accountability as a citizen of the nation. It is also a way of our identity as part of the sovereignty of our country. Okay, so our Philippine tax system can be seen through the administration of Bureau of Internal Revenue. Okay, so it is the BIR uh, responsible for collecting tax to all people. Okay. However, it is a must that the concept of taxation shall be uniform and equitable to all people based from their wealth and income. Okay? So the Congress may, by the law, authorize the president to fix within specified limits and subject to such limitations as restrictions as it may impose tariff rates, import and export quotas, tonnage and wharfage dues, and other duties or imposed within the framework of the national development program of the government. Meaning, uh, Congress as a department of Congress as branch of our government can uh, provide specific regulation in terms of the limits and in terms of the regulation on how tax should be collected within the country. Okay. Also, uh, the president can have uh, shall have the power to veto or to forbid any particular item or items in the appropriation, revenue, or tariff bill. But the veto shall not affect the item or items to which he does not object. Okay. Also, this implies the concept of check and balance to see that the three branches of the government are co-equal in terms of uh, administ- administration of the country. So we can see here the different people who are considered as subject for taxes. Of course, all individuals, the resident citizen, non-resident, resident aliens or foreigners, and non-resident aliens, but with transaction in the country. Corporations, may it be domestic or foreign, or private entities or private companies, estate under judicial settlement or lands under judicial settlement, trust irrevocable both as to the trust property and as to the income. Okay? If there were people who are seen to be sub to be the subject of taxation, there are also individual or even organization institution that are considered exempted in paying taxes. We have here number one, charitable institutions like churches, parsonages, convents, and mosques, and non-profit cemeteries, and even charitable and educational, charitable, and religious purposes. We also have non-stock non-profit educational institution used actually directed and exclusive for educational purposes. Okay. However, since they are exempted in paying taxes, uh, local expenses based from the rules and regulations of the local government code should not be forbidden, but they have to be responsible in paying for those. Okay, so those are some regulations on the Philippine taxation system. And until today, when we have the train law, there is an effect, especially with other products and even the income tax uh, to all working both in private and public uh, agencies and offices.